Greetings and a warm welcome back to Let's Network TV. Welcome to AmPd Studios facilities. Yay, we are absolutely back by popular demand. So thanks to AmPd and thanks to Old Mutual. I'm still the mad princess and I am still mad about the arts, about entrepreneurs, about creatives and about music. And today we are talking to an absolutely beautiful, gorgeous songstress. She is also a music businesswoman and one of the members from Kwani Experience, as we all know her. But today we are going to find out all about the EarthChild Nosisi Ngakane. My lady, greetings to you.
Greetings to you too, sister.
How are you?
I'm good.
I'm also fine.
Good. Yeah.
This is really such an honor.
Thank you for having me here. I am honored. Yeah, I am honored.
To finally be sitting here with you is my dream come true.
Amazing.
Yes, I think I've had discussions with you before about the short story of how I met Kwani Experience.
That's so funny. Because that's a song quote.
I know. So I did there.
Yeah, I see what you did.
And a lot of us know Nosisi from Kwani Experience. We could almost say that Nosisi and Kwani Experience are indexical of each other. You guys are a marriage. But today we're going to talk about you.
Yay.
But before we get into that, tell us the short story of how you met Kwani Experience.
It is actually a short story-ish, but so the guy that used to manage Kwani Experience right at the beginning, Tumaini, the guys all went to National School of the Arts together. So they kind of knew each other from there. And actually Kwani Experience it existed prior to my arrival. It just wasn't made up of the same band members.
Yes.
Because they were all playing at school at NSA.
Right.
And then they kind of moved on. I think their lead singer at the time, Nkoto, who is now the lead singer now,
yes,
she went to university. So, the guys still wanted to continue with the band. And then I knew the manager. He was just a friend at the time. And he was like, hey, I heard you singing once at school.
Yes.
There's my guys there, do you want to come for an audition? And I was like, cool. And I went for an audition. It wasn't necessarily an audition though. I got there and we started jamming. And then literally it was like, okay, cool, rehearsals tomorrow. And the next day and the next day. And ever since there, it kind of became a whirlwind because I was in school. I was at AAA.
You were in school at the time?
At the time. Okay. And then I started banking classes to go to rehearsals because these guys are not in university. So I'm at rehearsals, I will go at the same time as my classes.
Wow.
So then I subsequently failed, obviously. But then I had issues with my family about it and whatever. And then I had to leave home.
Yeah.
But that is the short story of
that
how I met them.
That is the short story of how you met them.
Yeah.
How y'all met.
How we met.
Oh, my word. That's beautiful. And how old were you at this time?
I was 20.
You were 20.
Yeah.
And how long did you do Kwani Experience for? How long
5
were you guys?
years.
For 5 years.
Yeah.
And was that kind of like the plan? Or what made you decide to, say, this is it for me? I have to find other avenues or whatever the case might have been.
For me, it was definitely I had a lot of personal things that were happening in my life. My mother was sick at the time, etc., etc. And so I really made some massive sacrifices to be part of the band. I also come from a family that values more professional careers, so like lawyers, doctors, etc., as opposed to the creative arts. And so I had given myself roughly 5 years to prove that this thing is going to work, right? And when I say work, it's basically, I should be able to sustain myself, get myself at my own place, be able to buy a car.
Yes.
If in the future I want to have children, I must be able to see that thing, like the path they're corner, you know what I mean? And we did a lot of tours while we were with the band. We performed a lot, but there were so many of us that we never really kind of ever broke even.
Yes.
I remember the cutting point for me, like that pinnacle moment, was going on a European tour. So we went on a tour of Europe for 1 month. So we were gone for like 4 weeks.
with
4 to 6 weeks,
Experience.
with Kwani Experience. And we traveled Europe, we'd go into cities and there's like massive billboards with our faces on them,
What?
etc. And it was like really insane, right? But then you get home and you have no money to pay rent and you're getting kicked out of your
Wow,
place, right?
yes.
And it was at that moment for me where I was like, if I continue with music, I really have to kind of redefine how I would do it. But in the meantime, I actually really need to just get a job.
Yes.
Because I'm also unskilled.
Okay.
Because I have never worked really before. So I don't know
Like
how
a
to
9 to
use
5.
a 9 to 5. So I don't know how to use computers. I don't know how to use Excel, PowerPoint. And I know
Yes.
those things exist because I've seen them, but I don't know. I'm not proficient with them. So I didn't want to find myself at a point when I'm like in my 30s
Yes.
and I have like no skills.
True.
And I'm now coming out and it's not late, but I'm
Yes.
old. Do you know what I
hear
mean?
you.
So it was a lot of all those things were my considerations, and then
Yes.
I kind of decided that probably was it.
And especially in a country like Mzansi, where artists are not really valued,
Exactly.
we are really forced to look at those many different options.
Exactly.
All right, now, Kwani Experience was like a family to you, right? And you were like the only girl amongst the guys, right? And also you spoke about your family, spoke about your mom and from your family side as well. Do you have any siblings?
I do. I have 2 siblings, and I wouldn't say I'll say is my
Is
family.
your family.
Right now, as we're sitting, Khonse is downstairs recording his album,
I
right?
saw
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Downstairs, actually.
So that is my family for life. You say, do I have any siblings? I do have. I've got 2 siblings. I've got 2 sisters. I'm the oldest one.
You're the oldest.
Hence the pressure's on me.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
True.
Even though my sisters completely surpassed me.
Okay.
So
And that's okay.
That's fine. She's the youngest. So my other sister is kind of, the situation is complicated with her, so we don't really know her.
Okay.
But I'm very close with my younger sister.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. All right, that's quite a mouthful.
Yeah, that's us.
And
Always mouthfully. Siyakhuluma.
yeah, that's quite a journey. And speaking also about the transition, being a big sister, playing the vocalist role amongst the boys, that means you also have to be like the mother, the sister sometimes, right?
Sort of and not sort of, in that, like, for me, I'm not that kind of person. I'm definitely motherly,
yes.
but the band, everyone was quite strong-minded and very clear about what they wanted, and they all had girlfriends who could mother them. You see, so I did not take that role at all. I was my own person. I've always considered myself, I've never really hung out with girls.
All right.
So it's like, I've never really had that. When I hang out with my friends, I've never really had that motherly thing. It's just like, I'm one of the guys
I
kind of
hear
thing,
you.
Yeah, so no, I was not the mother of the band.
Okay, I hear you. So tell us about your background.
Okay.
Nosisi Ubani, where does she come from? What's her story?
I'm going to try and summarize it.
Yes.
Ne? So, mina nguNosisi nokukhanya Ngakane.
Yes.
I was named after all of my great-grandmothers.
Amazing.
Ne? I was born in Lesotho. My family was in exile. My family grew up basically in exile. My mother grew up in exile. So that was between Lesotho, Zimbabwe, and London, right?
Wow.
So I was born in Lesotho. And I lived in Lesotho for the first 2 years of my life, then moved to Zimbabwe, lived there until I was about 6, 7, then moved to the States, to Canada, to go and live with my father while my mother came back to South Africa in 1992 to restart life because like apartheid was over, there was now going to be a new president, etc. So she didn't want to, because they had left so long ago, she didn't want to arrive here nomntana, not sure what the situation is obanjani, and also to find a job and settle down, So she took me to go and live with my dad while she came back to South Africa and just basically resettled with the rest of my family.
Wow.
And then I came to South Africa for the first time in 1994.
Freedom
Yes.
is coming
Hey!
tomorrow.
94. And then that's basically me in a nutshell. I come from a very political family.
Yes.
So my great grandfather was Chief Albert Lutuli, was one of the
Wow.
presidents of the ANC, also the first
And
Black Nobel Peace Prize winner.
Yes.
Yes. So I've always like kind of lived with that pressure on me because I'm very
That
much
makes
like
sense.
anti. I not anti that. I'm a firm believer that in every generation we all have the responsibility to create our own legacy and see kupukis tunes say like sendlu yethu, you know what I mean, to say ukuthi I have to have the same type of legacy as he had. I can't live off his legacy.
True.
So I very much don't mention that ever.
I hear you.
A lot of people and I think that comes from my family. We've never been those political families that use the name to get things or whatever. My grandmother is very adamant. My great grandfather, he kind of changed the trajectory of our family, where he was very much a Christian and was very for education. So all of his children were doctors, lawyers, and you know, if you think about the time that they were going to school, my grandmother's a doctor, you know what I mean? So just that kind of resolve to say that education is really what is going to change our lives.
True.
And so, you know, I come from that background where we are self-doers, you know. And I kind of chose another path, but I do believe also when I go deeper into the history of my family and understanding certain traits, like understanding my great grandmothers, you know, from my mother's side and from my grandmother's side and from my grandfather's side, because those are the two women that I was named after. And then also starting to learn more as I get older about my father's side of the family, because I never knew them. I'm starting to really understand why I am the person that I am. Because I feel like my ancestors, there are certain characteristics that my family will be like, hey, ufana nosbanbani, yazi ugogo wakho beka so, and I'm an empath. I am that person in my family who reminds people about feeling, because everyone is working so hard to be, you know, to exist. I'm the one who brings them back to say I love you, and then babe okwadi I love you guys, but okay all right okay share my short circuit.
I hear you.
You know what I mean?
That's really colorful. That's so powerful. That is amazing. And just, you know, that means you got political genes.
I do.
And what are your views on politics, especially now that we are in the season of politics? You know, it's that time of the year when politicians are out in numbers, you know, with their parcels, t-shirts.
Exactly.
So what are your views on just politics in general?
It's a tricky thing because I think, South Africa is a very complicated country, and we come from a complicated past. So I have the privilege of having a grandmother that was a member of parliament, is still very much alive and vocal. My grandmother lives off politics, so we have these discussions a lot, you know. And ultimately, it's important for South Africans to vote. Obviously, it's important for us to try and put the people that we want in power in place. The tricky thing with us is that our political system is based on, it's either the ANC or everybody else who is just opposing the ANC. So we don't actually know what it is that they can do for us. They don't have like track records to say, you know, you have done this type of community work and you've built your name up based on your works and not necessarily on a PR campaign, you know. So we don't know them, right? So I think it's important for us to also understand what is politics. It's serving the people, you know. So if you want to get into politics, a good place to start is community service.
Ooh,
do you know what I mean? Because then you start building up. You really understand the issues that communities face. Communities also start to understand you as a person and what you stand for, so that when you do then decide to start a political party, you do have a track record, right? Right now, people, it's like being in politics is like a career, and you don't necessarily know anything about community grassroots level issues. So that's what I feel about politics. I feel like we need to actually have more of a focus on like grassroots level.
community, collabos,
Yes,
networks.
exactly.
Right? That's
Exactly.
amazing. Let's just go back to your childhood a little bit, because it sounds like it was very colorful.
It was.
very interesting, very intriguing for a young girl that's also still developing. In your views, how did that affect you? You know, the transitioning to the very many different landscapes. How did that affect you, and how did it shape you today as Nosisi, today, the person that you are?
Well, I think the one thing I was saying to one of my colleagues the other day, like I moved around a lot. I never stayed in a school longer than 2 years in my life. So I'm very much a people's person. I'm very
Yes.
adaptable. I'm able to adapt. My empath element comes from, you know, people like to think that living in exile was like a nice thing, you know, and people were struggling. People were emotionally, imagine not being able to come back to your own country, being stripped away from the things that you're familiar to. So there was a lot of alcoholism that used to happen, and abuse, etc. I personally was physically abused also as a child by my father. I grew up in a space where people were struggling with alcohol dependency, and it was all because of this emotional toil, you know, that they had experienced. You know, there's certain things that I didn't realize my mother, for instance, had been through, where you know, the security police would come in and they would shoot at the doors, you know, at the windows, and you know, they have to go down, and my mother would cover her siblings, you know. So to live through that and be expected to function properly is like unrealistic, especially when there's no real focus on mental health issues at the time, right? So you basically must come back and you must catch up. You know, I always talk to my grandmother about it, to say when she left here, she was a doctor in London, etc. But when you come back, you have to start again, right? You're now entering a new system. So she had to start again from scratch at the age of like 60. Do you know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So you coming, you don't have a pension fund, you don't have a house, you don't have anything, you don't have a job, you don't have any. The networks that you have, luckily, are within the party that is now in power. But she doesn't want to get into politics. She wants to be a doctor. She wants to practice her profession. So she has no networks in that space, right? So literally, it was so hard as a child there wasn't that typical love that you would expect in a family, you know what I mean, where people have got no time for you because life is happening, right? And you better figure yourself out, right? So what that did for me is I was very independent. I was and because of what happened with my dad and me having to work through those feelings alone, because again, there's no time to be dealing with izinto zakho, you know what I mean? Like, you better figure it out. Just, you know, we all went through something.
Heavy stuff.
Yeah. So
some real heavy stuff.
Basically, this is your journey and you better be toughen up, girl, kind of thing, right?
True.
So that made me strong, but at the same time, made me very sensitive to people's journeys and experiences. And so I'm very sensitive to like understanding the context of why people behave in the way they behave. And I'm not like a super emotional person, because I always understand that a person will interact with you, but they are dealing with their own things, right? So they're projecting certain things on you that they may be very unconscious of, you know. And so it's not up to me to react. You know, it's really up to me to try to understand and bring out, like, dig deep to find out what the root is and what they're trying to communicate. They may not be ready to communicate what their causes, why they are becoming the way they are, but it's my responsibility to understand what they want to achieve with me in this engagement.
True. OMG. Yeah, OMG. All right. You know what? There is so much that we really wanted to talk to Nosisi about, but what I'm happy is that you did promise us a comeback.
I did. And I promised you not only a comeback, but a comeback with a performance.
I come back with a performance, even, you know. So some of these very interesting topics that we want to have with you, we're still going to have on part 2.
Okay, cool.
Before I let you go, I wanted to go back to 2 things. There's a song that you did with Mushroom Hour, right? And Mewatsiba, A Mother Knows. what really caught my curiosity with the performance of this, when I saw it on the video, was that you were carrying a human
Yes.
on your back.
A whole human.
Was that a whole human?
That was a whole
because,
human.
You know,
it
he's
was
covered
my
in
son.
a blankie.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
I mean, that was actually the beginning of my journey with Mushroom Hour.
Okay.
So we were friends. We were all friends in the scene. And it was a Saturday, and I was bored at my house, and they were like, "Hey, we're doing this thing in Bram, come through, but not uguti ngicule, just come and see what's happening and what's a cool thing to do on a Saturday." So bengihamba nomntana, and he got tired. So he was young at the time, so ngampepa. Yabo. So he's very sensitive to sound and noise and things.
Wow.
It's like my son is so opposite me because I love loud music and I sing loud all the time, and he's always like, "Oh, it's so loud, stop, please keep quiet." And he doesn't think I'm a great singer either. He's always like, stop singing. Yeah, so it's very strange, but so we got there and it was cool. Then he got tired and then I covered him, but then they started playing this song and it was a jam session.
Yes.
So I was like, "Yo, let me take the mic," and I was inspired.
Yes.
You know, and it was also the first time that I had sung in public.
Wow.
For probably like 6 years or so. You know, I sing at home every day, but like in public. So it was also the first time that I had trusted my creative self in the journey of music that I was going through at home, which was transforming. It was changing. You know, I was becoming a lot more like abstract, exploring sound as a feeling and an emotion, as opposed to sound as like, I'm going to make the song and it's going to sound like this and I'm going to have verse 1, verse 2, verse 3. I was very much anti-format, you know. So I got there and it was like, oh, damn, okay, these guys are also anti like establishment vibes, you know. So then I did the thing, and then they made it a video, and then also Mushroom Hour, like that's what they started. So from there they were like, oh damn, because I was like essentially the first female vocalist that they had worked with, vocalist I think, that they had really kind of worked with at the time. And they were like, "We love your style.
Yes.
Let's do another one." Then I was like, okay. Then we did that one. Then they're like, "Let's do another one." I was like, oh, okay. So I actually have like 5 projects with
of
Mushroom
your own.
Hour. No, where I collaborate with. So it's very
artists.
collaborative. The space is all about, and for me, I come from the band background. So it's very much a collaborative space, and that I try to get into.
All right. That's really inspiring stuff. And, you know, we know you from the band, but you've also have done some work on your own, right?
I have.
We're not going to talk about that
That's
today.
Cool. That's cool.
But what I did want to mention is, woman, why did you not tell me about chasing dragons?
Oh, did you Google me? Okay.
You know what? We're not going to go deeper into that.
Next time.
Because
next time.
I want to know everything.
That one is a story. Next
about
time.
That one is definitely a story.
That is a story.
And when I heard Chasing Dragons, please go and Google Chasing Dragons, the Mad Nation. Go and do that. It's amazing. When I heard that song, I was with the Papa Bear at home, and I said, "Papa Bear, you gotta hear this." He's like the one person, genius music that I trust. And he was speechless.
Really?
But let me tell you that he's still listening to Chasing Dragons to date.
Oh, incredible.
And this is 2 days ago, two nights ago.
That's awesome. That's so awesome.
You know,
it's nice to hear.
He said, in the words of Hooligan the Great, he says, "I've been looking for a melody all my life. I knew there's this perfect sound. This is it."
Wow.
And on that note, I want to say to you, Gore, Nosisi Ngakane, Umuloyi wa kosha. You are the song the Songstress witchcraftess. Really, because we'll talk about it another day. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in.
And thank you for having me.
It is an absolute pleasure.
Man.
Thank you, Nosisi, Nokukanya, Global EarthChild, Ngakane.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And this is still Let's Network TV. Remember to like our Facebook pages, Let's Network TV with the $sign. And you can also follow us on Instagram at The Mad Princess. I am still Ngwanaga o mama, let she go. And if you cannot say my name, simply call me the Mad Princess. And it's a wrap.
That was awesome. You're good.